Welcome back to Morning Express. It is now time for The Way It Is, and I'm in studio joined by able panel, starting with Kibra Member of Parliament Ken Okoth, Sarangombe MCA Owino Kotino, Lawyer Ambrose Weda, and nominated MCA Wanjiko Kibe, who is also the Jubilee candidate for Gatundu North Parliamentary seat. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program and thank you for joining us. And for you who are joining us from wherever you're watching from, remember you're welcome to participate in the conversation as we carry on. Thank you for joining us this morning. And let's start with, matters at hand. And we do have now the audit that was done by the audit that was done on the voter register, and apparently there's 1 million voters who may be dead but need to be audited. But let me start with you, Wanjiko, as the lady, on your thoughts on the preparedness of IEBC so far, as we have only 56 days to go before August 8th.
Thank you very much. I think now I feel they are getting prepared. They are prepared for the job. My hope is that the audit will, after the audit, then we'll have to get the list updated. And of course, the list has to be made public so that we know at what, what is the number of the voters that we're dealing with. But I'm also a bit disturbed because, again, we have challenges or, people who are not contented with the tender for the ballot, So I don't know whether that is meant to delay again the elections or bring, challenges.
So from your opinion, you feel IEBC is set and ready?
Yeah, they're getting set. But again, also coming from the NASA side, they seem to want to take us back all the time. Now I hear they want to challenge the tender that was given to the Dubai company. So I'm worried whether that is going to delay us again.
All right. Honorable Ken Okoth, your thoughts on the preparedness for IEBC?
I'm very worried. I think, as I said, 56 days to the elections. It's going to be a complicated election on very many levels. If you think the number of people running for members of county assembly, of course, 47 counties in different parties, county women rep position, members of the National Assembly, senators, governors, president, it's a lot of proper ballots to be done well. And I think as they keep cutting it short, Mheshimiwa Kibe has mentioned here, the word delay. I wonder in whose interest is this delay being planned? Because we as NASA are not interested in a delay. We want a clean election.
To be fair, I don't think she said there's a plan to delay. She said there's a question as whether that is the intention.
And who is in charge? NASA is not in charge of IEBC. IEBC has shown itself multiple times to be working in cahoots with Jubilee, releasing information. You remember when we were talking about the last IEBC commissioner should go home, and when we gave out the Okoa Kenya signatures, the Jubilee politicians like Duale and Sakaja came out and knew the contents of our petition and signature situation before IEBC had released anything else. And then a few days later, IEBC was saying the same thing Jubilee had said. So it tells you that IEBC has been working oftentimes in cahoots, and I hope this new commission is not making that mistake, because they're supposed to be impartial and fair, and to be seen to be impartial and fair and professional. But 56 days, you haven't ordered ballots, you're firing the director of ICT, you're firing the director of procurement. That raises a lot of questions, and I think there's a plan for a delay, and it is not a plan that is being executed by NASA, and anyone who tells you it's NASA that's causing the delay is lying to you. We as NASA are ready for election, and we want to change the country's leadership now and start serving the people and relieve the suffering of the people. The cost of living is too high.
All right, so as far as you're concerned, as Member of Parliament, IEBC is prepared or not prepared?
I don't think IEBC is prepared. I'm worried. I'm very worried.
Okay.
Mentioned on those three things that just happened this last week.
Okay.
The questionable tender, the firing of the procurement officer, which makes you wonder what systems and how do they work as an organization, and finally the issue of the ICT director.
All right, we'll come to solutions in just a bit. Ambrose Weda, you're a lawyer looking at IEBC and the challenges they possibly have had. Do you feel that they're prepared now?
I think that unless IEBC at this stage, they are sabotaged by NASA again through springing up some surprise, they are relatively prepared, taking into account what they have gone through, the various court cases that they've gone through that eventually have delayed them in the procurement of ballot papers, cleaning of the register. All these were prompted by the NASA. And at the end, it did not bear any fruit. So I think if they were left, if they received support both from Jubilee and from NASA, where if any party has a question, they sit down and say, we are worried about what you are doing here. Where is the problem? And then you listen with an open mind and you see where they're coming from, why certain decisions are taken. I think they are ready. But if NASA continues as a crybaby, somebody does something wrong, when he's fired, you say, oh, this one is Jubilee. Somebody steals here, when he's told stop, they say, oh, this is Jubilee. Then they will have a rough time. But all the same, the horse has bolted, elections have to be held. The court gave them a green light to issue a direct tender so that we have these papers. So I can only urge our NASA brothers that there are things that are done administratively. There are things that are discussed over the table. You don't just have to go to political rallies, dance over them, spread propaganda, badmouth IEBC, mpaka when people reach election day, they have lost faith. Please, our brothers, I think at this stage, the IEBC is relatively ready in the circumstances.
Is there anything that IEBC can do now for them to prove that they are prepared? Because anything that happens seems to be picked as, a lack of preparedness. Now, they fired one or two people and the directors, maybe as a way of trying to clean up the system, but that is still viewed as foul play. Your thoughts, is there anything that they can do now so that they can be viewed to be, or rather they can prove that they are ready?
Thank you so much. One of the things that I want to say, Mr. Gitonga, is the fact that in as much as there are some administrative issues, but we must remember that an electoral process is a process that brings about so many players and so many stakeholders. If I were Chibukati, what I would immediately do is to convene a stakeholders meeting, actually address the stakeholders. Where have we come from and where are we? And what are some of the challenges that we've passed through? I know there are some self-inflicted challenges that IEBC has incurred. And that's why they've actually fired some of their two personnel. And these two personnel, one of them was fired as a result of the indictment that was that was given to them by the Public Procurement Administrative Review Board. The PARB actually said that the tendering process that was being followed to do the balloting papers was fundamentally flawed. And we couldn't have moved with that process, a fundamentally flawed process, closing our eyes saying that we are time-barred. Those are the very things that would actually raise the credibility of this election. And two, when we come to issue of voter audit. First of all, I must say that they've done a good job in a sense. It was only 30%, and that 30% is attributed to the fact that to access data in this country is not easy. Because I was believing that if it were a good practice and the way it's being done elsewhere, the Office of the Registrar of Persons and Deaths could be working in tandem with IEBC so that it could have been easier. If somebody passes on today, the same data is fed to IEBC and they clean their register immediately. It should be a continuous process. But we must also be aware and alive to the fact that actually the process of cleaning this register started by people demanding IEBC to go. And as a result of that, there were some bare minimum issues or bare minimum conditions that were put. And one of them was going to the next election with one register that is credible, that is verifiable, and one that actually is open for scrutiny to the public. And that one has actually not happened. But I believe the way we are moving, we should make noise, we should hold these guys to accountable so that we get into that election with a lot of confidence, and it should be a commission that would inspire.
Given the 56 days that we have, is there anything that IEBC will do to pacify NASA to feel that, for instance, they are ready?
We do not need to be pacified. These people simply need to do their work above board, nothing else. We don't need to be pacified. Yeah.
All right. Wanjiko, do you agree that maybe if they did their work above board, really, there's no issue to pick with IEBC, they'll be left to do their work?
I think we need to let the IEBC do their work. This is an independent commission. But I think there is a lot of peddling by
But one might
NASA.
argue the reason why they are raising those issues are valid. And if they would just do their work well, then really there would be no need of people raising issues.
Yes, they may be valid, but even administration issues that need to be addressed by the commission, when we start questioning, why is this one fired, I mean, that is, of course, interfering with their work. Again, we are saying the tender process, we are looking at the days that we have, to remaining days. But these people, if you look, right from the day they started talking about the commissioners must go, I think it has been very deliberate, So I just wonder, for how long will this continue? I mean, for how long are we going to stay on this back and forth game? If, again, now we start going back to the tender process, so what happens?
Do you think the questions raised by those who have come against the opposition, because it's not just NASA, there are other bodies who have also raised questions, do you think their questions have been valid?
Some have been valid, but I think they also have phobia of losing the election. I think that is what is really ailing them. That they really fear that they see things are not working for the way they want. So every other time they must have an excuse. So today is about the tender process. What will it be tomorrow? I think they said they want new commissioners. We now have new commissioners. So can we let the commissioners work and have faith that they are going to deliver?
At what point will IEBC be left to work? Because like Wanjiko says, there was a quest for new commissioners. They were put in place. The secretariat was still working. They have continued to do their work, but it never seems to be enough.
I think, first of all, she said we have the fear of losing something. We don't have the fear of losing. We have a commitment to win. We know how we're going to build a coalition of supporters that will be 10 million strong voters. That's important. But number two is when you come to IEBC, do not just tell us, have faith. Have faith in a country and a continent where the history of elections have been cooked up before. There is not a policy and a way to approach any election, where the incumbency is using every rule to their advantage and breaking any existing rule and willing to change the rules. For example, Jubilee has been advertising, GOK delivers, hashtag Jubilee delivers, on all media. That is a violation of the existing electoral law, that you cannot be advertising within this period to the election, government achievements. And you're seeing civil servants out there, ministers, cabinet secretaries, all campaigning for Jubilee. And then you're telling us, just have faith that these people have good intentions, IEBC is independent. We will wait and see that independence. We will be vigilant, we will not have faith. So let IEBC be aware that at no point will we start giving them a space to operate on purely, we have faith in you. We will tell you we are going to verify and we are going to be very vigilant about everything. Remember,
at what point does it change from being vigilant to interfering? Because at the end of the day,
any point where they are making mistakes, we will oversight them and we will point out their mistakes. And if we are petty, Kenyans will see that and will punish us for it. But as long as we're raising valid issues, remember IEBC operates on public funds. And if you're given public funds to do a public duty, it's a public trust, you must not violate. The oath of office for the commissioners, the duty of the secretariat and any state officer is the same, to deliver. And here they're failing to deliver. And I'll tell you why IEBC, for instance, it doesn't have its game in order. The issues that Honorable Kibe has so thought are administrative that could be sorted out easily, and same as Ambrose has done. How consistently have they been in engaging those stakeholders, as Honorable my MCA explained here, Kotieno explained? How consistently have they been engaging the leadership and the administrators and the parties to make sure all these briefings are going on? But number two is the IEBC has been adamant about going to court several times, even all the way to the Constitutional Court, to argue issues about, returning votes and returning officers and results declared at the constituency are not valid until Chebukati at Bomas verifies them, but Chebukati who's not in the field. So if Chebukati trusts his returning officers to declare the MCA, to declare the MP, to declare the women rep, to declare the governor, why does he suddenly think the results they declare for president will be different or wrong? And why does he want to tally and vary them? How are you going to vary results from a place like Laisamis up north, yet you're in Nairobi? Based on what? You know, so those are the types of things we're thinking about, and that's why we're telling people like Honorable Kibe, you may have your chance to have faith because you think it's going to your advantage for now. But I think a fair system that is open and credible for everyone would serve you, because sometimes the shoe will be on the other foot. I'm a member of parliament. A few months ago, I was telling my colleagues, don't make laws and don't take advantage of the system thinking things will permanently be to your advantage. Many Jubilee members thought this law on no party hopping would favor them. Now they're out there crying tears. People like Member for Tetu and others.
All right.
They did not want the party hopping law. They were so, this is perfect, let it be the way it is. And I'm sure Honorable Kibe here has benefited from that no party hopping in Gatundu North. It has helped you. So when you come to Parliament and we are together, let us make laws that make sense.
Let me help the honorable member a bit. You know, at times you have to trust. I mean, look at even at home. You have a house girl, you know, or a house manager you live, or people you leave to work for you. You know, times you just have to trust that when you come home, the food is not poisoned. And you just put find food on the table and you eat. But these guys are over suspicious. You know, every step of the way.
Maybe with valid reasons, but let me hear from you, Ambrose. At what point do we now let it be trust? Because at the end of the day, there's also the argument that IEBC's issue is not so much a systemic issue, but one of trust. And until Kenyans in general have trusted them, it's going to be very difficult for them to operate.
I think my brother, Mheshimiwa Koth, Lord says you travel with hope. You need hope. The only good thing I've heard from the two of you, which IEBC has not done well, is consultation. Where we are now, there are certain fundamental things that when they do, or when they resist, or when they argue, they need to call in the stakeholders, especially the noisy part, the NASA. When they insist that we want tallying at this place, sometimes it's easier to call each other and then sit down and tell them, look, the reason why we want this is this and this and this reason. And then it is argued out, people reach a consensus. That part, I think my brother Chebukati is very competent, should be able to think as we move forward. We do not give NASA or any other person fodder to continue complaining. Be that as it may, an umpire will always have one side blaming it, however good they work. So they need just to do what is right, what is correct in deep consultations and in a transparent manner. And some people will have faith. Others may not have faith, and we will continue praying for them so that they learn to live by faith. Because in this world, you just trust that the oxygen God has given us is the good one, and you will breathe it and remain alive. Otherwise, IEBC, where it is, because the commissioners are new, the Secretariat operated on their own for some time. There are bound to be some randy or some wayward officers who are thinking they are bigger and doing one mistake or the other. The only thing I ask my NASA colleagues is, please, sometimes channel your complaints in a way that gives a solution. As we also on this side of Jubilee, let us also not be adamant so much as if we own IEBC. Sometimes we defend the IEBC so much that NASA people think there's something we know because they fear. They see these laws, but they think there's something we know with IEBC. It is not IEBC. It is the 45 million strong that should worry you. Otherwise, IEBC is just as a problem to you as it is to us. Because if it was not a problem, they would have just given us the ballot papers we mark and win. But they are good umpires.
All right, Honorable Kotieno, in terms of moving forward, solutions, IEBC is going to be the umpire come August 8th. We need solutions, and we need solutions that will keep this country at peace.
One, I must underscore the fact that for them to inspire confidence among Kenyans and to other players, just like we've said, the first thing must be consultation. Two, IEBC is an independent commission. Being an independent commission, the Secretariat and the commissioners, they have to inculcate that spirit of independence among them or amongst them. Remember, there is no school where people would be taken through independence of mind or administering your things independently. But this is a hard decision. This must be a deliberate effort done by an individual, and one should actually say, I want to operate above pettiness or partisanship. And the only way to do that is to stick to the law, is to stick to the Constitution, is to stick to some of the regulations that they themselves have actually pronounced, or they've actually done, and to ensure that we reach that level as a people. What I'm still saying, right now, there's a law, there's an amendment that is being pushed in Parliament to allow the government to advertise and to do all the stuff like that. Yet we're in an electioneering period. As a good commission, I would have expected IEBC actually to inform the government that using public resources, using public kitty, going into public coffers is not the way to go. They should have actually come hard on them with all the state instruments, with all the machineries, so that Kenyans can actually know that that IEBC is not holding fort for Jubilee, but with that level of silence. The silence is just too loud. If it were members of opposition who are doing that, I'm sure they could have come down heavily on them. But I'm not seeing that on Jubilee side. So let them be stickler to the rules of law and to the law themselves.
All right, Honorable Wanjiko, maybe your comments on Chebukati and the whole commission on the fact that they've not come out strongly enough to declare that they indeed are independent. There are times they should come. Do you think they maybe should come out a bit stronger and ensure that they take their position?
Well, for me, I think they are working. I want to believe, I don't speak for them, but I want to believe when you're independent, you don't need to explain that you're independent. Why do you need to explain? All you need to do is to work independently without having to explain, because that is what the law requires of you. That is what the public expects you to do. So I think they're just doing their work. Let them work. Mm-hmm. So I don't see the need for them to keep explaining. However, I want to concur. There is need for continuous they need to give information continuously. They need to consult where possible or where it's important to do that, and give information as is required and at the right time.
You know, a tiger does not proclaim its tigritude. It pounces. We've waited for so long for IEBC to pounce, but it's not pouncing, and the prey is there. They're not pouncing.
They're not doing anything.
And let me tell you, the Election Offences Act is very clear. This is where you should show the clear bias. Anything that NASA has raised of concern, for instance, on issues of tiling, IEBC has lawyered up the most expensive lawyers and sent even the AG to contest this in court and argue forever about it, even though courts have already ruled that results should be valid from what's declared at the constituents. But on that case, IEBC is very organized and committed and willing to spend $1,000 an hour to have expensive lawyers fighting for it. But number two, on a substantial issues like a clear violation of the Election Offences Act, that has happened, it is continuing to happen. And this we're going to hold IEBC accountable for not bringing the complaint and for holding Jubilee to account. The advertisement. Last week, I think on Thursday, you had 9 cabinet secretaries on media advertising and doing interviews that were very clearly a use of public resources, bought up airtime, and unfortunately it wasn't on your station. Maybe they'll be buying soon. But we also have to ask ourselves, the media in Kenya, you should act ethically. You know Jubilee is violating the law. You're taking government money to help Jubilee violate the law. All the media stations that are running this Jubilee infomercials and things like that are breaking the Campaign Offences Act law, Electoral Offences Act law, and they're participating in it. They're co-conspirators. So there will come a time to be held accountable. And you'll be asked what was your role in it and why are the media houses participating in it? Where are the Media Owners Association? Where are the ethics boards oversighting the media to ask themselves in their own practice, is it worth it for the profits they are making to participate in the flagrant violation of the laws? We can see Jubilee's motivation and spirit of impunity to do it, and their attitude to Kenyans mutadu. But for the media houses to facilitate it, to be running these ads and shamelessly taking away public taxpayer money, yet at the same time we have Kenyan children with no medicine, right. You know, things like that.
We'll come to the medical issue as well, but let me hear from Wenda.
I think NASA colleagues should be careful. These threats all over. Now you have had Mheshimiwa threatening media houses when they come to power. I had another NASA principal threatening a given community when they come to power, there'll be no development there. I had the NASA presidential candidate, he will come and by fear to reduce rent. He went to Mombasa and they will down there bring TGRC report to bid. This threat that you are putting around on everybody, where do you want us to go? You want us to leave this country for you people?
No, no way. We want you to stay in Kenya and stop the impunity.
Please,
because...
I know that you talk about...
Give me a chance to answer this question.
Please let me finish.
Yeah.
10 million strong, but now it is 9 point something that because Musila has left and Nyenzi has left, now the number has reduced. But let's come to solutions. I think what my brother Chebukati should also do at this time, I also see football. I don't watch football, but I see it occasionally. The coach normally at times consult the captains. Okay? This is the time when you should have a liaison committee, especially from the major parties, from Jubilee, NASA, and the presidential candidates, where when certain decisions are taken, then they meet and later on they discuss and say, the reason why we took this decision was because of this and this. Sometimes an easier discussion would be better for this country. Secondly, let our also NASA colleagues, please, do not put us in state of fear with threats. Tell us the agenda. What do you want to do? You barraged the railway. Now you are insisting it is yours. What do you people want to do? Just to throw us out of the country? Surely that's not the way to
answer that question.
Okay, let's hear from...
I think Ambrose is a very smart and intelligent lawyer. I have raised an issue. He couldn't respond, so he went to argument by circumlocution, telling us, where do you want us to go? We want you to go nowhere. We want you to stay as a Kenyan who lives in a country where your taxes are not wasted and used for political campaigns. Your taxes and my taxes. It is not a threat to say that the Election Offences Act are being violated. The lawyers for KTN and the Standard Media Group know that. They can read the law in black and white and see it's being violated. They can see the part they are playing if they are running those ads and taking profits as a media house and any other media house in Kenya. It's not a threat for me to say the truth. Lawyer Ambrose Weda here can tell me whether that law is being violated or not, instead of asking, is he being threatened to leave Kenya? Ambrose Weda, Kenya ni nchi yako, kanyaga nchi yako kwa nguvu na raha, and there is no threat. Stay right here, and our NASA government, one of the agendas will be to make sure that public resources are not wasted. That is the simple agenda. Do not waste public resources. Do not violate laws, because then you create a spirit of impunity. If these laws can be violated, why not the next set of laws? So let us be a country that follows rule of law. The laws exist there. It was passed under Jubilee Parliament with tyranny of numbers, and we amended and we made sure no advertising using government resources, yet we're seeing Jubilee doing.
All right, let's move on to something else, and let me come to you, Honorable Kotieno, and this is in regards to one of the decrees, let me call it that, by the president as he was campaigning, and this is to do with the IDPs, the fact that they will be compensated. Your thoughts on that, and of course of the timing? I mean, they have been out for a while. Your thoughts, maybe just to start from there.
First of all, it is unfortunate that probably 5 years down the line or so, this is the time when President is realizing that we've had some integrated IDPs along the country. We must also remember at one time the President was also in charge of Treasury. And immediately after this, the PEV, or the post-election violence saga, actually he did nothing while he was controlling Treasury. So I'm concerned and equally perturbed that this is the time that he's coming, running left, right, and center. And to me, those are just signs of desperateness. And sometimes they say desperate times calls for desperate measures. But Kenyans are very vigilant. They know that this is their money. They will definitely take the money. And we've also heard them telling the president, please go back and bring some more money. Because if they've been in the camps for over 4 years, and now you bring them what is rightfully theirs, why don't you double this? Because if they were businessmen or businesswomen, they could have invested this money into something. It could have grown this economy. And so giving them handouts, thinking that they don't know that this is their rightful share, 20,000 with this economy, what do you expect them to do? while others were being paid handsomely.
400.
There must be fairness. There must be equity. We should not take people's plight for granted. If somebody is an IDP, don't cash in on his or her desperateness. Now this is the problem with the society. The level of impunity is just too much. And the chief of impunity, President Uhuru Kenyatta, will not stop at anything actually to address these things.
I wanted to correct him that what we are talking about is integrated IDPs. And these have been living with the families. It's not the IDPs that are in IDP camps. Yeah. And I think the Jubilee government has been very consistent in terms of doing it progressively, settling and trying to sort out this IDP issue. And I wonder, at what point do NASA want Jubilee to work? I think the government is still in place. They still have, they're still working. It's still a working government. So when it's done at the beginning, they will say, it's a rhetoric, it's empty promise. When it's done now, again, it's not going to happen. I think the time is right. The government is still very committed to ensure that all IDPs, including those who are integrated. And I also have integrated IDPs in my communities. You know?
But the question, why do you get an electioneering period? The question then would be, why leave it till now? We only have 56 days to go to the election. What is it that caused that delay? Why wasn't this done earlier if it's not just a campaign?
Being able to identify who actually is the real IDP has been a challenge, and especially the ones who are integrated, because these people left the camps after the post-election violence, and they went and started living with their families or with their friends. So to be able to identify who are the real ones, it requires time. It's a process, because there are so many fake IDPs who come up. Everybody wants to claim that they are also IDP. That has been the major challenge. So for me, I think it's not an issue of the election period. The issue is we have that challenge. The government is committed to ensure that it's sorted out. And if it's being sorted out now, so let it be.
Okay. Honorable Koth, somebody might argue and say better late than never. It is not too late to give somebody what belongs to them.
There's been a major discrepancy. If it's purely administrative and verifying the right beneficiaries, I will agree, and I might even grant that might take time, and sometime might even have a delay. Justice delayed is justice denied. But when you finally get around to grant it, please grant it properly. What formula? So I agree with Honorable Wanjiku there. But what formula was used to compute that some IDPs in Kenya are more equal than others and deserve 400,000 relocation land and all those things, yet some IDPs in Kenya, especially in places like Kisii, only deserve 20,000 shillings. Now, you say it better late than never. I come from Kibra constituency. There's a group called Exodus Group, and they went and were integrated in places like Kawangware and stuff. We have petitioned the AG, we have petitioned the Ministry of Interior, we have petitioned the former CS for Devolution and the current CS for Devolution. Exodus Group, Ministry of Special Group. They know the program, and I'm telling them which the group is, and they have the document. Exodus Group have never been compensated. So better late than never. Start with them, even if it is that thing of just making them taste the 20,000 of relief and acknowledge them. They are genuine. But
when you say
why
start
not?
With them,
so,
how do we see?
Do something for them. I'm their MP here. I'm telling you, my people are also IDPs.
But
do something for them.
But there is
why are you discriminating against them?
But there is an administrative formula or way that they have to find out. Just because your MP cannot make it valid for them
4 years, I am employed as an MP to work and represent my people. Documents have been provided. The ministry is not contesting the validity of the document. Why is it taking too long to find that the IDPs of Kisii exist and worthy of sending the president to give them 20,000 each?
We don't have the documents here, so we cannot verify and say where they're delayed.
You called me here as a credible panelist in your thing. I don't come here to joke. I come here to discuss serious issues.
So, you
take it easy. You didn't bring any documents. You're providing fluff in this debate. I'm talking about people whose lives are suffering. I'm not relaxing because the people who are IDPs in Kibra, you have the luxury to be dressed in a nice suit. They are clothless. They are homeless, they are hungry, they don't have medicine. Address the Exodus Group who are IDPs from Kibra who have been left without attention for 10 years. Address them too. So better late than never. We will relax the day they are also celebrating and saying, thank you, the government has listened to us, and the government is Jubilee and is not listening.
But at least Mheshimiwa is happy that the government is doing something good. At least I'm happy about that.
And I'm sad that they're not doing anything for the Exodus.
It's my turn. Allow me. I think President Uhuru, if he's not hearing, let him hear now. Mheshimiwa Kibera MP is complaining, and you have the solutions and you know how to do it, go ahead and compensate the Kibera people. So wait, it is coming.
Okay.
That will come.
Thank you.
But I thank God for these elections, because for now, people who suffered are being compensated. That we thank God for it. If you
But
don't
do we
vote for
have
this
to wait for
election,
elections
yes.
for them to be compensated?
That's
Why can't the government just do what is right?
Just let me finish. That's the unfortunate part, that it has to happen now. The best would have been, before it happened, we would have put in Mheshimiwa Uhuru and Mheshimiwa Ruto and Mheshimiwa Raila and Mheshimiwa Kibaki in a roundhouse, and then we call people with the Nyaunyo to give them some lashing fast before they issue these checks. One, Honorable Raila was Prime Minister 5 years. And after the Kriegler Commission, they were told now part of the agenda is to compensate IDPs. Himself and Mheshimiwa Kibaki. After they got power and positions and motorcades and public toilets and carpets, they just went to sleep. Nothing. President Uhuru also came in, struggled around, but now the reality has dawned, and we thank them that at least something has been done. It is late, but they have done it, and they should do it. In fact, the president should come to Kibera, and when he comes, please welcome him. I'll give you a red shirt for that day only, and you welcome him, because people should be
my blood is
compensated. And we thank the president for at least owning up that we are late, but it should be done.
And we will welcome him to take care of our IDPs.
Tell
No
your other
problem.
NASA colleagues, they can
I am
dance with
MP
him.
for
The president
Kibera.
can
We
be
will
taught how to
welcome him.
dance.
Don't worry about
But
NASA.
compensation is good. So let us not complain too much. Yeah. Oh, it is late. It is coming at election. Surely, even if I was the president and there's a mistake somewhere and I can correct it, which is before God good, and it can also hand me a few votes, why not?
Honorable Gotieno, the issue here might be that it's coming late and it's a campaign time, but at least something is being done.
You see, I don't like the way Weda is trivializing this issue. One thing for a fact that I know, Jubilee is operating on a maxim that the end justifies the means. And to me, that's not very good. It's not ideal. What we should actually be asking ourselves, almost 8 years down the line, when even the current president was Minister for Finance, what did he do? Because he's saying Raila was Prime Minister. Raila does not control Treasury. Raila does not control Treasury. The instruments of government are controlled by the...
So does the president control Treasury?
He was the finance minister.
At that time, yes. But as Prime Minister, was his voice heard in regards to settling the IDPs? The question might be asked by many, what is it that he did as Prime Minister to ensure that they received their right? And what difference is it going to make now when he's president? Definitely,
in as much as there could be collective responsibility in that cabinet, but everybody is actually selfish. Everybody wants to guard. Everybody wants to guard.
So are you saying
boundary.
that everybody is selfish, including Raila?
I know.
As Prime Minister?
I know. In that same wavelength that I'm telling you, these things were actually left so that they could use them as political capital. If you look at areas where people are being compensated money, those are areas that they feel that there is hostility, and the only way to pacify those people or those areas is actually to hoodwink them that you are compensating your integrated IDPs. There are still integrated IDPs in Kisumu. Nobody is talking about them. We had Ministry for Special Programs that was being handled by MP for Taita, Dr. Naomi Shaban, and they have data up to date. Why don't they go back to the office and reconcile the data? Look, actually, run through the data. Ask themselves, how many IDPs or integrated IDPs do we have in Kisumu? How many do we have in Kibera? Why do we have to wait for electioneering period? That's when we start running up and down. I think they are playing with the desperateness of the people, and the people should take that money and actually teach them a lesson in the ballot, because for far too long, they think that when they do that the government is magnanimous. The government is not magnanimous. The government is riding on the desperateness of the people.
All right, let me take a call from Margaret, who's calling from Kabache. Good morning, Margaret, and thank you for calling. To your comment or question. Mzuri, Margaret.
Salamia hawa wase.
Wamesalimika hata madam.
Sasa mimi ningelipenda kuunga Weda mkono. Machafuko ya vita vya 2007 2008 ilitokanwa na Kibaki na Raila. Watu wamehangaika. Hii miaka Raila wamekuwa katika serikali na Kibaki, mbona hawakukombezeti hii watu? Uhuru ameona watu yake wanaumia, awapatie kitu. Angalia kama upande ya Kibra. Kenya anasema ati Kibra mbona hawajakombezeti? Yamepeleka maneno yake. Akipeleka watawapatia. Haya, Kenyatta ikiwa anatembea anaona watu wanaumia. Haya, ukiangalia NASA mahali wanaenda wanajua hizi ni kura zao. Wakishajua hizi ni kura zao, mbona wawapelekei hata unga? Wanawapelekea maneno tupu. Inatakiwa wafanye mema, wanapeleka pale unga kuliko kulaumu rais, ndio watu wajue kweli hao watu wanataka nini. Tutawapatia, watatusaidia. Lakini maneno kafu. Na tena President Uhuru anaposimama kwa jukwaa anatanguliza Mwenyezi Mungu mbele na kusema Mungu abariki Kenya, Mungu abariki wananchi wa Kenya. Na hao wanapoingia kazi ni NASA yeye, hatuonangi kitu yenye tunaweza NASA hapo. Kwa hivyo sisi tunaambia wana NASA, na tena machochezi ile wanafanya katika nchi ya Kenya wawache. Okoti, wewe huko mbunge wa Kibira, ni nini unasaidia watu wa Kibira? Hata Wanubi wamehangaika miaka nenda miaka rudi, Raila akiwa katika Kibira. Tulipatia yeye tukiangusha Richard Amayo na Peres Olindo liki. Mbona hajarekebisha hiyo mambo ya Kibira kupatia hata watu wa Kibira title? Asante.
Thank you very much. You're Margaret Mepiga kutoka Kabatia. And remember, you're welcome to call and participate in the conversation if you have a question, or maybe you have a comment that you'd like to throw to the panel. So there's a question there asked to you directly, Honorable Ken Okoth, and that is in regards to Kibra. Maybe just to highlight what you have done for the people of Kibra.
I think we've been taking steps to improve the conditions in Kibra to make the appropriate investments. First of all, you have to understand the role of the MP is representation, which I do on all forums, in Parliament and outside Parliament, including on media. Number two, I don't think anyone can accuse me of not speaking up for the people of Kibra, including quiet diplomacy where necessary. Number two is implementation legislation. We have pushed important legislation such as the Prevention of Torture Act. We've put legislation such as amendments to the Basic Education Act and the gazettement of school fees to be reduced from 70 or 80 or 90,000 to 56,000. I'm glad it's a national debate issue now on how we will implement full free secondary education.
Okay.
So I think
it's on record what
she did say one thing that's of concern, that why don't NASA people come with goodies and handouts like unga, that we go to our rally with nothing to dish out to our people. Actually, people come to the rallies to hear a manifesto and a vision and to get inspired why they should vote for change in this country because they're suffering too much. They don't come there for handouts, and they are not ferried. As we've seen the other day, people were ferried in Bungoma with 15 school buses. Now, this is just the other day, talking about offenses and impunity. C.S. Matiang'i is a very serious person, has been an elder in the SDA church, said that no school buses should be used for political rallies. Jubilee used 15 school buses in Bungoma to ferry people. They did not pay those people their allowances and left them stranded, and nobody has been taken action for using school buses. So it's contrary back.
Let me take a call from James in Kisumu. Good morning, James, to your comment or question.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Yeah, now my constant question, first of all, is the issues that are being addressed by the panelists, especially the biasness from Wanjiku, then weather. It is raising a lot of temperature. When you see weather, imagining that we are living what you call a good word, like the way Adam and Eve were put by God, that even God gave them life to lead. But then when you look at compensation of IDPs, and that thing affected a lot of people seriously, during the coalition government, they must agree that there was pull and push. Nobody wanted to touch that idea. Now, when it comes to when they are supposed to be compensated, then it is used as a tool to hoodwink somebody to respond, then it becomes very emotive again. And number two, the cost of 4 or 8 years, is it worth 20,000? When this guy was removed, the property destroyed, everything, then you go with 20,000 shillings. Why can they compute the time value of money, then appreciate the same? Number three, it is not appeasing or pleasing that we are doing something the way that lady from Sabatia said, or said that they should be going with UNGA. People should work hard in this nation taxes used correctly and not being misused. And number two, elections law. They are very clear, like Kenny saying. You should not go promises that you cannot be able to deliver. And if you can't deliver them, don't quote them anywhere. What Jubilee is doing is something that it should even be taken to court today. Because we are not saying that this Kenya is a vacuum of people without knowledge.
All right.
So number three, whether should have tried to campaign in a way that can be able to attract people to believe that right things can be done, wrong things can be corrected. Jubilee is not trying to correct anything, but is trying to provoke emotions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, James in Kisumu. Let me come to you, Wanjiko. He referred to you directly, but also, as he mentions, that Jubilee is not doing anything to try and correct what is wrong. And sometimes when we have a panel with different sides of the political divide, are there times in Kenya we'll have such mature politics to a point where if there is a mistake within your own camp, you can admit and say, look, here we have made a mistake, and this is what we're doing towards correcting it?
I think most of the times it depends from what side you're looking at things from. And I think what I've said, and that is what I know, because I've said we have cases of integrated IDPs even in Gatundu North. And I will assure you, it is very challenging being able to do an audit and tell who actually was an IDP. And
but is it possible for you to admit on behalf of Jubilee government that this is coming a bit late?
Yeah, it maybe should have been done earlier, but the fact that we are talking about integrated, if there are IDPs in camps, that is a different scenario. But for me, the reason why I give that allowance is because we are talking about integrated IDPs. And I will tell you for sure, Michael, it is very challenging to be able to identify the true and correct and real IDPs. And that has been the challenge. It has taken time.
Okay.
Maybe, not unless we say, then we should have waited. Then after the elections, we do the compensation. But I've also heard Honorable Okoth say, I have IDPs in Kibra. Can they also be compensated? So he's not actually saying the timing is wrong. He's also saying even mine, the ones I have, can also be compensated.
And the
now.
amount is very little.
All right.
But he also mentioned something about
something
the issue being very sensitive and bearing in mind that we are going to the election period. It's unfortunate, and we really don't foresee or expect that we are going to have such cases. But I think Kenyans have come of age. They are mature. They are able to handle issues. We are talking about compensation. Fine, there will be issues of others who have not been compensated, but we hope and pray that the government also looks at that.
We'll take care of that. Let me take a call from Evans in Vihiga. Good morning, Evans. Thank you for calling Morning Express. To your comment or question, Evans.
Asante sana, nimekupokea vizuri sana.
Asante.
Mimi kwa upande yangu naitwa Evans Angiremu na ningependa kuchangia hivi. Unajua wakati mmoja, wakati Jubilee inajidai ya kwamba ina miradi ambayo imeweza kuanzisha, miradi ya Jubilee mimi naelewa ni miradi ambayo ni laptop, ambapo hiyo ndio kitu ambao walikuwa wanajivunia. Saa hii watoto wameripiti kwa shule wakingojea laptop, hatujapata. Neno la pili, mtu mwenye anaongea akisema Uhuru anapatiana watu pesa, alikuwa wapi kupatiana hizo pesa wakati alikuwa kwa serikali pata miaka 4? Alafu baadaye anasema unga imekuja na watu wananunua 160, 180. Alafu mtu mwenye hajui serikali inaenda wapi kwa wakati huu, angalia maisha ya Wakenya imekuwaje. Wakaangalia Raila wakati walikuwa kwa serikali, walipitisha. Raila hataki kupigia mtu makoti, alisema tupitisha hii katiba maana inajali maslahi ya Wakenya. Alafu katiba tuliyokuwa na ya ndizi na chungwa, hiyo ni katiba Raila alisema hiyo ni mbaya na hii ni mzuri. Raila amefanya kazi ambayo ya kuonyesha Wakenya wanafaa waishi maisha ya kutopigia mtu makoti. Uhuru anatembea akikawa pesa wakati anatafuta kura, na wakati alikuwa akitafuta kura wakati alipewa serikali, wakati alikuwa na kesi heki, alipewa nafasi atengeneze maneno haya na apea hawa watu wakimbizi pesa zao, lakini hakuwapatia. Anangoja wakati wa election ili atafute kura ndio wampigie kura. Alafu ukiangalia mambo kama stima imeshapanda, na hiyo ni ushuru ya Wakenya. Stima iko juu, tumeshindwa, tunaweza kwenda Kenya gani ambayo tunaishi? Mtu mwenye anaongea kuhusu Jubilee imewaacha Wakenya wakiwa kwa shida. Na ukiangalia NASA wakati Ruto alikuwa kwa serikali, anajua maisha ya Wakenya vile ilikuwa. Wakati wanasema hawakuwa kwa serikali na hii serikali ya muungano, wakati Raila alikuwa anataka kufuta Ruto kwa sababu ya ukosea ya ufisadi katika serikali ya kilimo, Kibaki alimtetea akataka kuwa kwa rais. Kwa hivyo napongeza waziri mkuu ambaye aliyekuwa waziri mkuu kwa kutetea Wakenya na kuangalia maisha ya Wakenya mahali wanaenda. Ukiangalia Uhuru anaenda upande wa Busia, hawezi kuja Vihiga, hawezi kuja kwa sababu anajua watu wa Vihiga wamesimama tofauti.
Sasa Evans, asante sana. Nafikiri tumepata ujumbe wako. Wacha tuchukue simu nyingine. We also have another call. And at this point, we'd like to just say goodbye to our viewers on KTN Home. But those of us on KTN News continue with the way it is. So for those of us on KTN Home, Life and Style begins now, and we say goodbye. All right, and we now want to take a call as we come to almost a close of the way it is, but we want to take a call from a caller who is now calling us. Okay, maybe it's not yet ready, but maybe just to come back to the panel. Ambrose Weda, some issues there raised by Evans, and of course, one of the biggest things that we are grappling with as a country right now is the cost of living, and more specifically, basic food requirement like unga is, well, it's supposed to be subsidized currently, but Kenyans are still complaining that as much as it's subsidized, it's not available in the stores.
I think there's a level where the Kenyan people also have to be vigilant. Why do I say so? The unga has been availed. On Thursday, I was in Kisumu, in Kondele. I also went out to buy that unga. I went to one shop, and it was not in the supermarket, but I went to one kiosk, it was 150. Then they put it in a black polythene bag and they give it to you quickly. When I opened it, it was the government one. And I told them, this is 90 shillings, return it. But be sure you'll be arrested. I went to the next, another kiosk, now it was 130. Again, I rejected. Then I went to the third kiosk where now the kiosk owner is ingenious. He has taken the unga but divided it into quarter, going for 30 shillings. So I think there is a level where if the unga is there, it is the wananchi to say no. If this is the position, please obey it. We also have a role, appreciating that there was a drought in parts of the country that has affected. Just blaming government all the time, even where things you can see is not good. But I appreciate, if you look at, for instance, sugar. I saw in some places sugar is 400 shillings, 2 kilos, 200. I look at the factory price that we sell to the businessmen, even from Saudi sugar, which I had. There's a gap of almost 80 shillings. And yet it is direct sale where you're supposed to take to your shop. There is a team in between from the factory and outside here that are making the lives of Wananchi difficult. And this requires Wananchi also to be proactive.
Okay, although somebody might also argue and say that the government has the instruments of power and should clamp down on those cartels.
But just allow me to answer on this.
I need to take a call from Elijah in Nakuru. Let me take a call first and we'll come back to you. Elijah in Nakuru, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yes, go right ahead.
I have a question for Honorable Okot.
Okay.
Mr. Honorable Okot, may I ask you, when former Prime Minister was in power with Kibaki, what touchable project did he initiate? Also, you said Jubilee ferried supporters from school buses to Bungoma. What about NASA when they borrow a lot of supporters from Kisumu to Kakamega? Can you tell us what is the problem for those two major coalitions to bury their supporters to those 8 NASA or Jubilee meetings?
Okay. Thank you, Elijah. Let me take another call, then I'll come back to the question. Richard in Eldoret. Good morning, Richard. Go right ahead.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
I want to congratulate Ken Okot.
Mm-hmm.
He's such a sober politician, but only that he's a slave of a party. You know, Kenokot, if Rosemary was to vie for Kibra, I know Kenokot will be in trouble. But he is a very sober since he came to Kibra. He has done really tremendous job. And he has done projects, even the people. There's some time when Rosemary was getting into politics and people were distracting his properties. But he has done so tremendously, and he articulates issues the way they are.
Okay.
But he's only a slave of politics. Let me come to what I wanted to talk. We appreciate when people have done something to the country. And since Jubilee came into power, from the first day, the NASA people have been trashing what they have been doing. And talking of compensation of IDPs, in anything that we do in our society, even in our home, there are priorities. I think in Jubilee, the first priority was to settle the displaced people. Then they have come to the integrated. So the duration that they have been in power is only 4 years, and that one we should only appreciate. The Nusum Kati government was there for 5 years. They did not compensate. They did not settle. They did not do anything of the sort. Let's just appreciate that they are doing it as much as whatever time they receive the compensation is the right time. Whatever they get is the right time. Then, if that means that if they were given more time, they could do more things. And I like the NASA people, I like their policies. I like what they're articulating as much as they're copying from the Jubilee Manifesto. But they should also appreciate what these other people, if they want to form the next government, we'll also want to support them if they come in power. But they should appreciate. If you appreciate, you'll be appreciated.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Richard in Eldoret. And as we wind up, let me start with you, Ken Okoth. Several questions asked to you there. One of them being from Elijah, tangible projects that possibly the former Prime Minister would have done while he was Member of Parliament for Kibra. And now that you've been in Kibra, obviously you're able to compare what he did and what you have done so far. Then there's also Richard there saying that as a good leader, you ought not to be a slave to a party.
Well, that's his opinion. What his definition of slave to a party is, I could say he's a slave to Jubilee. Let us go to tangible
He has not
things.
even said he's member of Jubilee. That is an assumption.
But he didn't tell me how I was a slave for ODM, so I can't.
Well, he mentioned that one of the things he mentioned is that if Rosemary Odinga was vying for Member of Parliament, chances are you would not make it. But then again,
how does that make me a slave? I think it's tasteless to bring the name of Rosemary, who's our sister. She's had a major health setback. Let us all pray for her to recover as our sister and as a human being. It's tasteless to use her in a political campaign for any political cheapness. So let us all agree we pray for Rosemary as she's recovering from her health setback.
Tangible projects vis-a-vis
Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and this is a very offensive thing a lot of people do. You think you're doing me a favor by praising me to tell me I've done well and telling me Raila didn't do. Actually, the things I have done are a fraction of what Raila did. Raila Odinga was not MP for Kibra. Raila was MP for Langata, one of 8 constituencies in Nairobi. So it's inaccurate. Number 2, if he wants to see an example of what Raila has done, get on Google and just Google up for yourself and see, for instance, slum upgrading project. 2 phases done by Prime Minister Raila. Housing for over 1,500 families, removing them from shacks with no running water to apartments with a tap, that runs, with electricity, with dignity, affordable, with a long-term payment to own plan. So I think don't ask what Raila has done in Kibra if you're not willing to look for it. But I'm happy to tell you that Prime Minister Raila Odinga was a champion for empowerment, including in education, something I'm passionate for. When he was MP for Langata, a whole major constituency at the beginning, CDF was only 36 million. I have been an MP for only 3 years. These days, CDF is 100 million. You cannot compare what Raila had to do for a constituency that was double the size with double the needs, from Kuwinda slums in Karen to Kibra slums in Kibera. He didn't create the slums. The slums are an evidence of the fact that our society is unequal and is socially unjust. And the poor people come from rural areas, they start in slums, whether it's in Kibagare, whether it is in Kawangware, whether it's in Kibra, is irrelevant. So I'm telling you, the Prime Minister has a track record that can be proven, and he did schools, the Currency Secondary School, Langata High School was a day school, now is a boarding school. Those are all initiatives that have come in there that he did. I am only following and implementing in its footsteps. I'm using social media to tell my story, to build my brand, to make sure I'm kept in this job, and I keep going on. So I think it's a little bit sly and silly. If you look at his accomplishment, and I'm just telling you, someone like myself in this generation is able to participate in our public leadership and serve and offer my energies and talents because Raila paved the way. We got multi-partyism in the days when it was only one party. Now we have a new constitution that must be implemented with a key principle of devolution, equality, inclusivity. Let us deliver and implement those things. We know Raila's role in fighting for those big ideas to bring back multi-party politics, to bring now devolution and the new constitution, and people like myself are little soldiers to implement that. These are generals you cannot compare yourself with.
All right, closing comments, Ambrose Weda, as we wind up the waiting.
I think all I can say is that let our people be proactive. Let us move in a way that unites our country. As we prepare to vote for Uhuru Kenyatta or Raila Odinga or my friend Wainaina or my friend Ekuru Aukot or the rest, please let us know that we have one nation, the same blood flows in our veins, and there is no need, there will be no reason to fight anybody over elections, whatever there is.
Wanjiku, your closing comments?
I think I'll say let's give Jubilee government a second chance or a second term. The government has delivered on its mandate, and it continuously continues to do that. And I think it's evident which side is giving hope and which side keep promising and thinking that they can do what they think they can do. So I think as we do that, let's maintain peace, let's campaign peacefully, and I ask our people to come out in large numbers and vote.
All right, Coutinho, your closing comments.
Well, to my fellow Kenyans outside there, especially young people, I would want to urge them that they should look at this election as a game changer. For quite some time, they've been used just as objects of agitation. And even what I saw in Kapsabet or in Nandi County last time was not very good. Young people right now should be instruments of social change. They should see the future as their own future, and they are the key holders to the future. So they should make actually serious judgments that will liberate them or emancipate them from this current and bad situation that they are in.
All right, final comments. Kenokoth, Honorable.
It's a very simple question. Are we better off today than we were 4 years ago? I would say we are not better off, and it is time for change. The value of the Kenyan shilling to the dollar has gone down, a reflection of our weakened economy, the cost of living, the unfulfilled promises. So I think it is time to make a change, and NASA has a plan in place to make for a more inclusive politics and a more inclusive nation where we don't leave people behind, that the country of Kenya should not be a country of 45 billionaires profiting from major projects while 45 million Kenyans languish in poverty and beg on their knees for 90 bob unga.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning. That's the way it is. And we'll take a short break, but we'll be right back with more stories that are making headlines. Do stay with us right here on Morning Express.